We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Malpractice attorney Clint Kelly is with us. The number 737-7587. If you have a question or comment about a case or something along those lines, go to Ronnie. Ronnie, good morning. Hi, Ronnie.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
I got a couple of questions. I don't know if it got anything to do with malpractice, but my brother, he called for an ambulance about 4 something in the morning. They didn't get there until about 11:30. When they got there, they broke his arm to try to draw blood. He called at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't get there until 3 or 4 hours later after that.
Yeah.
So, when you call 911, ambulance supposed to come right then.
How's he doing now?
How's he doing?
He died.
Oh.
He died at 4 something in the morning after they called him. If they had come and got him, when he called, he'd still be here. But they come at 11:30 at lunchtime almost.
What did he die from?
Huh?
What did he die from?
I think he said something was wrong with his heart or something like that. And they were supposed to come out there at 4 o'clock in the morning when they called, and they just didn't pay no attention. They waited until 11:30 in the evening to come and check him out, to take him to the hospital.
How old was he?
He about 64, I think, or 65.
Nick, the combination of 911 and ambulance services, they're different in every county, and the system is different in every county. So it's hard to tell here whether this was a dispatching error or an error on the part of the ambulance service. I've never heard of an ambulance that didn't show up for 3 hours.
Yeah, that's a long time. I know sometimes there are delays, but that's ridiculous.
So either 911 just blew it, just didn't get the message to the ambulance service appropriately, or when the ambulance service was notified, they didn't act on it. And I can't answer which one it is, but I have never heard of that type of delay. That kind of delay is deadly. It'll kill you if it's an emergency. It makes me wonder, did the family call 911 again and say, where's our ambulance?
Yeah.
Or put the guy in the car and just get him out of there.
Yeah, just take him yourself.
If you can load him up and go.
That would not be a malpractice case,
No,
necessarily.
I don't believe so, because I think that's more of a governmental liability action if it's a 911. Yes, the ambulance service, but that kind of thing is really not malpractice. That's a question of what I would call failure to communiate.
Yeah, no, but you hit it on the head. I think it's government, issues on whether or not they messed it up.
Correct.
Looking at 2 of the larger cases making news, the opioid settlement. I wanted to ask you about that. I told you it was going to be big, didn't I? You called it, and Purdue Pharma, and it hits me, and you've said this all along, the money in opioids, the fact that they can settle for all these billions, and that family still walk away with more money than they could ever spend. It's just mind-boggling.
You see how they organized the settlement. They organized it where they could go into Chapter 11. That protects the family. This was all about protecting the family.
Yeah.
So what they did is they basically liquidated the company for all intents and purposes, but preserved the crown jewels, which was the family's ownership and their interest. They'll be able to start again. They'll be able to reorganize and continue to sell drugs. They may do it on another name, but they can do it. But this is just the beginning, Nick. This is the one of a series of rungs. Think of it as a ladder, where you're climbing up to that $100 billion figure. This is just the beginning.
I know there's other lawsuits out there.
Yeah, you'll start to see more dominoes fall as we get forward.
Well, do you think it's going to change anything with regard to opioid manufacture and the way they're distributed, those pills?
I don't know.
That's what I'm wondering.
The only template we have for this was the cigarette settlement, tobacco settlement. What did we get out of that? A good portion of that was supposed to be spent on public advertising campaigns trying to prevent smoking. Now, you've seen some commercials like that, but what of that money has been used to try to save our young people from vaping?
And that was my next question for you, the vaping. And the vaping lawsuits, again, I guess it's on the fringe and outside of what malpractice would be for you, but I know one youngster is suing now, and it's the company because he says he has the lungs of a 70-year-old.
It's the wild, wild west because it's completely unregulated. The companies that make these devices, some of them are in China, or some of them are in a chain of companies that go back to China. This is going to be long and tortuous litigation. What do you call it? Vapor litigation? Is that what we want to call it?
Vaping, e-cigs.
Yeah, vaping litigation.
Yeah, vaping litigation is probably what it is.
It's going to take a long time, and it's going to take a lot of discovery, and I think we're going to find a lot of unsavory people that are in that chain of manufacturing.
You think? Oh, you mean, okay. Unsavory and the product, something. Well, I've said all along, they needed to come up with a new alternative to cigarettes as fewer people were smoking.
Right.
And this was it. When it came out, I think they really started showing up in like 2004.
Right.
My son goes to UT. I know you have a daughter, and he goes to UT. He ventures to guess that a good 70% of the students he sees walking to class are vaping.
Right.
70% on campus. Now, that's just off the top of his head. But he says everywhere you look. Now, he doesn't, thank goodness. But it's everywhere.
But I haven't seen an advertising campaign directed at preventing vaping. Have you?
No.
I mean, other than what we're hearing now about these recent deaths, I didn't see a push by our government to try to impose upon our young folks the dangers of vaping.
Some of the ads I hear on the radio, sometimes before the ad runs, there's a disclaimer that runs saying the following is a tobacco product that could be harmful to your health, or something like that, along those lines.
Yeah.
Then they run the vaping commercial. So I've heard that on some radio ads, but the ads run all the time, and someone's making $1 bazillion there, and it's addicting, and you get the young kids hooked on it. Right? It's just you think there's going to be a lot of evolution.
Oh,
in
I
that.
do.
Yeah.
I do.
Let's go to Kara. Kara, good morning. Hi, Kara.
Hello.
Hey, how can we help you?
Yes, sir. I was just asking. My mother had an amputation, and they had put on some shrinker shots. And I'm just within 2 weeks has caused serious damage to where they had to go back in and re-amputate to where we had never discussed or ever even thought it would have to be.
Carol, let me get a little more information from you. This person who had the amputation, how old is she?
80.
All right, and what was the purpose for having to wear the shrinker socks?
To get ready for a prosthetic.
A prosthesis?
The prosthesis.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's
like
a shrinker.
It's like a
sleeve
to get it.
It shrinks the stump.
Okay.
Okay, it shrinks the stump and kind of. Well, just that. It shrinks it around so that you can attach the prosthesis at the bottom of the stump.
Okay.
And so you're saying there was an error in the way that the shrinker was used?
Yes, sir. I feel like it. There was never no damage to the top of her leg or her knee. And within at least, it was 2 weeks, if that long, they had went up to 5 shrinker socks. And it cut off the circulation back of her knee and on top of her knee. So when we got her there, they immediately put her in and amputated above the knee. Okay.
How far above the knee? Is it at the hip or halfway to the hip? Do you know where?
It's right above the knee. Right above the knee.
Okay.
Not too far to the hip. Mm-hmm.
Kara,
but there was never no damage there.
Kara, what I'd like you to do is
When did it happen?
When did this happen, Kara?
The first surgery was June the 30th, and they went back in August July the 5th and closed it. Then this was August the 20th.
Okay.
I think was it.
I want you to call
done the surgery 22nd. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I want you to call my office at 8:30. It's 615-8-MILLION. That's 615-800-0000. It's an easy number to remember. Ask to speak to Michelle. She does all of my screening, and she will ask you a series of questions that will help me evaluate whether or not I think this case has merit. I know what you're talking about. I just don't know whether or not you have a case based on that, because I don't have time on the show today to ask all the questions I'd like. But please do that, and I will get back to you in writing and let you know whether I think you got a case.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you much. Interesting. Have you heard of cases like that where something like that and maybe they have to amputate further because there's something that went wrong?
I have. This is probably going to involve a prosthetist. A prosthetist is someone that actually makes the stump fit into the prosthetic. He's in charge of getting the right prosthetic for the right stump, so you get a good connection and you can walk on it.
Gotcha.
And part of his job when he's shrinking is to make sure he doesn't damage the stump. You don't want to do anything that could cut off circulation to the stump, because if you do, part of the stump that's remaining, if you think of it as,
well, yeah, it's just like
here's your amputation. Let's just say that, let's say that's the knee and you've lost your leg below the knee. You just keep shrinking this thing so that you can put a new prosthetic that fits in there. If you tighten it too much or mishandle this thing, you cut off circulation. Then what happens is they might have to go in and cut above the knee because this part's dead. And so it's much, much harder to get a new prosthesis to fit there because it's higher.
It's bigger too,
Yes.
Okay, and so the mistake would be that they made it too tight, so they had to cut the rest off.
Correct, and failed to monitor that when they were adjusting the socket that they were cutting off circulation. I mean, one of the things you got to do is if you start seeing the tissue begin to get cool, turn green or blue or whatever, you know, hey, I'm not doing this right. I'm not saying that's what happened with her, I don't know, but that is a possibility based on how she's describing it.
Good, she'll call and check with you. Listen, we got to take a break on that note. When we come back, more phone calls, more of our conversation with malpractice attorney Clint Kelly right after this.